Before we get back to the main plot, there was one early side quest that had some actual relevance to the concept of what an Inquisition is, at least classically, that could have been in this game. The problem is everything about and around it is handled so poorly, it's sad to see the wasted potential.
There are Inquisition soldiers even here. I told you we would be safe.
How does some random NPC know what Inquisition soldiers look like when I don't even know what they look like? Has the game even shown us our version of a generic NPC Inquisition soldier? I think they did, but not directly, and we certainly don't dress like them. The only person who looks like a soldier here is Cassandra, and she's wearing her normal Seeker armor.
I know you. They call you the Herald of Andraste for what you did at Haven.
And how is it you know me? Who told you what I look like? I mean, seriously, did someone sketch my portrait and Liliana just photocopy that somehow and send off dozens of ravens to random forts throughout the country?
But are you? The Maker has not told me.
Are you expecting visions, lady? Now, however this random, potentially insane NPC has communication with the Maker, she brings up the question of what we are. Do we believe we are the Herald of Andraste?
I honestly don't know myself.
As I suspected, stories of you mastering the rifts are just blind heresy.
No, I can seal rifts.
Then prove it. Show me that the rifts bend to your will, the will of the Maker.
If you're going to have a Jesus character, it makes sense to prove to random people that you can walk on water.
This cult, what are you doing out here? What is it you think is happening?
The Chantry has fallen, and shown its imperfection in doing so. The Chant of Light was a lie. It was arrogance to think that mortal lips could frame the Maker's will, and so we wait in silence. The Maker has opened the sky. Soon he will call his chosen back to the Golden City.
So this cult still believes in the Maker, but that the Chantry were a false religion, whatever the chants specifically stated. And somehow they think that a promised land or second coming where the Maker will return and call his chosen back to the Golden City, which I assume is their version of heaven. This is exactly what an Inquisition would be for investigating heretical or outlandish divine claims like maybe a herald or those who disbelieve in the faith, who get the religion wrong, and it's your job to set it right. How we do that would determine what kind of Inquisition we have, and what kind of characters. Do we simply prove we're the herald by closing rifts? Do we frighten them into submission? Do we imprison them, inspire them, torture them? Do we put them on trial? Do we kill them? All of these choices or versions thereof would have been a fantastic way of playing with the theme of who and what the Inquisition is in the game world, and how you can influence that world. It was all there for the game designers to use.
I suppose it only natural that some would turn to worshipping the breach, if only in hopes of appeasing it.
Now what Solus just said didn't make too much sense. They still worship the Maker as they're praying to statues of them, and there's no real sign of people worshiping the breach. Did the narrative designer have a different idea than what the level designer was doing? But what's interesting is that there is a small breach in this fort, and it's possible these people are worshiping that, which is obviously strange since violent demons come out of it and just sit there. It's not exactly something worth worshiping, but this is the kind of interesting stuff that would make a curious scenario ethically circumspect in these people's motivations and in our methods of dealing with them. Unfortunately, it just gets resolved as you would any breach in the wilderness. Just kill some demons and close it. And it's not contrived at all that the breach is right in an enclosed area beneath this fort in a specific open spot. Anyway, you close the breach, some people come around where the worshippers were to see what you did. Alright, that's something. And while we're here, we take our Roman claim and get some lore about the history of the place, which is boring and useless, and we talk to Aeneas again.
Maker's tears. I was a fool to have doubted you. How may we serve you? Herald of Andraste.
And that's it. That's the resolution. No moral or religious ambiguity, no crisis of faith, no further inquiry or doubt, no correcting and saying we're not a herald or proclaiming that we are, no zest or zeal, just devotion. Wow, thank you. And look at these options. We can choose one of four, aside from walking away. The other three are only a singular outcome. You help refugees, you spread word of the Inquisition, or you listen and gather info. Now, I'm no herald-worshipping group of people with a fort, but if I have the capacity to help refugees, wouldn't I also be talking to them? Wouldn't I be able to listen and gather info from them as well as tell them that we support this herald and their Inquisition? I mean, this is not a mutually exclusive series of options here. You can do all three at the same time, lady. Although we shouldn't be blaming this lady here, more so the actual person who came up with these insipid choices. The other comical thing is, if you just ask her to help the refugees, even though she's religiously devoted to us, you don't gain her as an agent. Even though our 3 advisors specifically asked us to gain agents to help increase our group's authority and reach. But what exactly is an agent anyway? What do they do for us? How? Did the game even bother to tell us or show us? And therein lies the next problem. This was such a great opportunity for the game to explain or show what this Inquisition is all about. This one side quest, instead of just traipsing the unnecessarily large countryside, what if each greatly reduced number of mini breaches had a story to tell? A story about people changing religion, having doubt in the Maker, or whatever. A rage demon could come out from a breach near a village and turn all the people there violent or militant. A desire demon turns all of them into hedonists, or even better, an envy demon masquerades as a person, converting everyone into their new Fade religion or something, like a false prophet. From there, you could easily see the need for a classical Inquisition in a magical setting. Seek out heretics or demons posing as people, polluting the world and having them convert back or find their faith again in the chantry, or through an investigation of some sorts, maybe a trial, or maybe you just help or hinder them in some way, or maybe you just kill these people. That would have been a little more complicated, but it would drive home the theme and title of the game. That is an actual Inquisition. You could even make them see you as the Herald, or just a guy, or maybe an anti-hero, or, well, whatever. But instead, you get these things called PowerPoints, and you get to tap on rocky outcroppings for minerals, and you pull plants for resources, or some boring MMO crap. Yeah, because everyone wants to play a single-player MMO. Meanwhile, back at the Hall of Justice...
Your kind killed the most holy.
Lies. Your kind let her die.
Shut your mouth, mate!
Enough!
Knight
That is
Captain.
not my title.
Now, is it just me, or was the delivery of Cullen a little too quick there, Mr. Sound Editor?
We are not Templars any longer. We are all part of the Inquisition.
And there is our mini Mage versus Templar internal conflict resolve. Thanks, Cullen. Wow, what a story. So much conflict here, and it's all resolved. Why is this scene here if you're not even going to address the conflict?
And what does that mean exactly?
Back already, Chancellor. Haven't you done enough?
I'm curious, Commander, as to how your Inquisition and its Herald will restore order as you've promised.
Thank you, Roderick. Doubting Thomas, Devil's Advocate, whatever. Finally, the narrative is directly addressing the problem of what it means to restore order, or restore order, through the Inquisition. Let's see what Mr. Conflict Resolution has to say about this.
Of course you are. Back to your duties, all of you.
Wow. Everything just stops, and everyone just walks away. We had the exact moment to address this issue, argue, debate, fight, whatever. It just goes away. Everyone, back to your duties, no problems here, nothing to see. That is worse than lampshading. That's admitting you have a problem and just carrying on with it. Man, we should just get Cullen up against every single conflict we have. He'll just talk them into going away. Why are we in charge of doing anything here? What are we doing? Then there's this guy calling himself the Marquis who has apparently glued a mask to his face. Is this a fashion statement? How is it hanging off his face? What is wrong with your face, glue man?
Sir Trevelyan, may I present the Marquis d'Aurelion, one of Divine Justinia's greatest supporters.
And the rightful owner of Haven. House d'Aurelion lent Justinia these lands for pilgrimage. This Inquisition is not a beneficiary of this arrangement.
Now this is a rather curious conflict, and luckily Cullen, the remover of conflict, is nowhere near him. Apparently, an Orlesian Marquis owns this land, and he doesn't approve of Inquisition forces on it. Alright, that seems fair. The problem is Haven is in Ferelden, and the Fereldans during the Ferelden Rebellion and after the Battle of the River Dane, where Prince Merrick challenged King Megrin to single combat, who was the Orlesian King of Ferelden at the time, killed him and won, which means the Orlesian occupation was officially over. Empress Selene I made peace between Orlais and Ferelden. So how the heck did Haven and his chantry, which sits on Ferelden's borders, not get acquired by the Ferelden people?
This is the first I've heard of Haven having an owner outside the Chantry.
My wife, Lady Machin of Denver, has claimed to Haven by ancient treaty with the monarchs of Ferelden. We were honored to lend its use to divine Justinia. She was a woman of supreme merit. I will not let an upstart order remain on her holy grounds.
Okay, cool. So there was an ancient treaty with the monarchs of Ferelden who gave it to this dude or his family for who knows what reason, and he wanted to honor Lady Justinia. Lady Justinia V was appointed divine in 934 Dragon. The events of Dragon Age Origins occurred in 930 Dragon, back when Haven was just a small rundown place. The events of Dragon Age Inquisition occur in 941 Dragon. In 935, Justinia brought Haven back into the fold and was restored so that pilgrims could come to see the Temple of Sacred Ashes. So all this time he was happy to let all sorts of people come, but now that Justinia is gone, it no longer means anything to him. Now, that's kind of interesting, but of course, the game never bothered to tell us that or give us any means of investigating his claims, providing counter-arguments, or even delve into the historical lore, because ultimately, there is no conflict here. It's all fluff. This scene means nothing. It doesn't matter what you choose.
The Inquisition might stay in the meanwhile.
Well, great. Showcasing random NPCs' issues toward us or side characters where we have no moral or psychological issues or conflict has no bearing and is completely wasting our time. Now, maybe this scene was just to introduce and show off Josephine. This is the first time you enter her chambers, after all, and her descriptions of what happened are, fairly detailed, considering she's a diplomat discussing such complexity, but the whole scene is rather moot, so who cares about complexity? Instead of introducing a meaningful character who owns the place, but isn't actually in charge of the military of the Inquisition, reminds me of the character Thomas from Suikoden 3. He's a lord of a castle, trying to restore it to its former glory, though is an integral main character in his own plot. It would have worked if the Marquis was like that. But this Duralion dude, yeah, he's useless. He's pretty much meaningless. There's no conflict here. Like the previous one, or the previous scene with Cullen, it's completely empty and it's totally forgotten. I think the only reason he's here is to show off that Orlesian nobility that they wear masks. Or at least they hang off one's body better than the one's, weapons or whatnot, and the magical magnetic back everyone has. Although considering the animosity between the two countries in the past, he probably shouldn't be wearing it in Haven. What does he really gain from wearing it anyway?